If you're looking to grow your podcast, you need to be testing and learning. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you 5 things that you can test in your podcast to grow your audience. So whether you're a podcaster or a business owner or doing anything where you're looking to grow it, you need to constantly be testing and learning. You may have heard of A/B testing, where people will test 2 different captions or 2 different email titles to see which one performs better. What they're doing is they're testing things and learning from them. So today I want to share with you 5 things that you can test on your podcast to learn and grow your audience. We want to constantly be optimizing. Now, before I get started, I don't want you to test everything at once. I want you to pick one thing, and you're going to test that one thing and then learn from it. So I'm going to share with you 5 things you can test. You can pick anything, just don't do them all at once, because you won't really be able to see if the thing you're testing is effective if you're testing 5 things at once. So the first thing that you can test and learn from with your podcast is simply the length of the show. Does your audience like shorter episodes? Do they like more long-form episodes? So by testing this length, you can see if the download numbers go up or down, and you can even ask your audience for feedback. Do you like the shorter episodes? I am testing shorter episodes due to people not commuting as much, and I want to get in and out and give you as much value as possible as fast as I can. Now, that might not be what people want from my podcast. And if you don't like the shorter episodes and you'd like more long-form conversations or interviews, please let me know so I can make you more content. But you can test this with your audience. If you're doing an hour-and-a-half long show and you're wondering why people aren't sticking around, it might be a great thing to test a shorter episode. Now, the cool thing about podcasting is there's no rules. You can have a podcast that's 2 minutes long. You don't have to have an episode that's an hour-and-a-half every single week. All right, the next thing that I want you to potentially test is the format of your show. Are you exclusively doing interviews? Are you exclusively doing solo podcasts? If you're just doing interviews, I'd like you to experiment with maybe just doing a solocast. And if you're only doing monologues, go ahead and try to find some people to interview and see how those episodes perform. I've got a great example. One of my clients, Tom from the Contractor Fight, did 100 interviews in a row. And after the 100th interview, he called me in a panic and said, I think I ran out of people to interview. I really don't know what to do. And I said, Tom, you are a commanding guy. You have lots to say. You're a Marine and you have a great voice. Why don't you try to do like a rant or a monologue for your audience? And we called it a solocast at the time. And so he said, okay, I think I like that idea. I'm going to try it. So the next week we released a solocast. And the week after that, we released a solocast. And his audience went crazy. They actually preferred listening to him rant because he's got such a powerful, inspiring voice than to the interviews. So we changed the format of his show to have 3 solocasts and 1 interview. So you can learn by testing new formats to your show. Now, third, posts on social media. Social media can be a challenge for podcasters. They don't know what to post. They don't know when to post it. And so my advice for you is to simply start by testing different kinds of posts. You can post an audiogram. You could post a video of you giving a sneak peek into what the process of you recording looks like. You can put out video of yourself podcasting, or a little golden nugget, or an ear nugget, as I like to call it. You could post pictures of your family or behind the scenes. I am posting mostly on Instagram tips and tricks for podcasters because I want to bring them a lot of value and help them. I also post pictures of my products and services. But every time I post a picture of me and my family apple picking or goofing around, I get like twice as many likes, which tells me that people are actually interested in who I am as a person. They don't just want to see the latest tip and trick. So I've started to incorporate that into my social media programming, where I'll share more about my lifestyle. And it's super fun to know that people actually care who's behind the mic, not just how they can improve on the mic. All right. Fourth, titles. So we mentioned A/B testing before, and people testing titles of emails. I want you to start to test different kinds of titles. Titles are the first thing that people are going to see when they see your episode, and the title can really be make or break with whether someone presses record or not. So experiment with titles. Can you make it simply a question? Can you make it something juicy that they just can't resist? I can't believe I'm publishing this podcast. Or a question like, do you know how to blank, right? Whatever your niche is. Do you know the fastest way to blank? And create a situation where you're putting them in a position where they're actually asking themselves if they know that information. And if they don't, they're going to want to click the button because they're going to want to learn because you're going to share it with them. Or if you're doing something like a comedy podcast, you could use just juicy hooks that have irresistible clickability on them. And I don't want to say clickbait, but you want to do something that's really going to make someone say, I got to find out what's happening here. So test your titles. And fifth, video. So I'm really hot on video right now. I used to think that the podcast was everything. And I'm quickly learning that video is converting a lot more to bring me new podcasters. And that's as simply as me filming this podcast right now. Now, if you're not comfortable in front of the camera, you can just simply do something like this, where you record the side view so you're not staring into a lens and feeling insecure or overwhelmed or getting that video red light fever. So you can do a side angle shot, or you can look directly in the lens, whatever you're most comfortable with. And before you run out and buy a camera or any type of live streaming rig or anything, you can start by just doing it on your phone. There's a great app called the Shure Motive app that's free that allows you to record 4K video on your phone. So you can get a great shot of yourself recording your podcast. And now the other things you can do with that are cut it into little chunks and share it in different places. So taking one large piece of content and making it into a bunch of little ear nuggets that you can spread out whenever you want. Now I'm going to make an entire video on how to take a podcast and turn it into a bunch of different pieces of content. But for right now, I just want you to start getting comfortable on video. 5 years ago, it was easy to just have a podcast. 3 years ago, people started using audiograms. And now the trend I'm seeing is that I'm seeing a lot more clips of people video of them doing their podcast. So can you incorporate video into your podcast, and will your audience appreciate that? If your show's visual or if you have a great style, I think that it will convert more people to fall in love with you as a podcaster and hit the subscribe button so they don't miss the podcast when they're out and about, at the gym, walking their dog, washing dishes, all the things people do when they consume content. So there's 5 things that you can test right now on your podcast. Again, don't test them all at once. Pick one thing and test it for a little while and see what the results are, and then optimize. And then maybe go to the next thing. But if you test them all at once, you'll get mixed data back and you won't really know which of the things actually worked. So just make sure that you focus on one thing at a time. So tell me, what's one thing you're going to test for your podcast? Hit me up in the DMs on Instagram and let me know. I love to hear from everybody. And if you're struggling with an issue with podcasting, join my private Facebook group. It's the Podcast Builder Club, where I help podcasters find their voice, grow their audience, and take over the world with their podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.